Ambassador, thanks for joining us. First of all, what's your reaction to the US attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities?
Thank you so much for coming, and just to get to the point that you mentioned, we have to just have a short review of how we started from the very beginning, and it was on June 30th that we just came across to an unprovoked and imposed war against us through the Israeli regime, and they attacked residential areas, our scientists' homes, and also some commander of our armed forces that they were sleeping and they were not in the battle position. So we considered it as the grave breach of the international law, and especially the United Nations Charter as the Chapter 4 and Article 2. The Security Council of the United Nations has to take proper measure in sort of situation, but since they were not taking that, Iran used as the Chapter 51 of the UN Charter its own self-defense measures, therefore reciprocated those on just law and illegal and unlawful attacks with proper defensive measures.
But you're saying that the US attack on Iranian nuclear facilities is unlawful?
I'm coming to that point as well, that since the Israeli is a rogue and illegal and illegitimate regime, we expect such an attack from the Israelis maybe sometime, as has done about 10 major war against the neighborhood, and also attacked also the nuclear facilities of other countries. But when it comes to the United States, it is very amazing that United Nations, as a founding member of United Nations and also a just primary powers, main members of the UN Security Council, that they are to be the supporter and the guardians of the Charter of the United Nations. It did, such a very bad and illegal action that came to a just transgression of this international law and attacked Iran facilities. Those facilities were under the safeguard of IAEA, and we condemn strongly such an attack, by the U.S. administration.
Does Iran regard this as an act of war?
The terms is a little bit maybe more technical to consider it, but it is an act of just transgression and just breach of international laws, and we just find it necessary by United Nations Security Council to address it. And we do believe that U.S. by doing this just made a very bad and treacherous and deceptive approach toward diplomacy, because we were in the process of a diplomatic round of talks with the United States, and we found out that all of them was sham, in order to hide the machinations and the secret plans to attack our facilities.
So do you interpret this as an act of war?
I cannot exactly just use that terminology or denomination, because it is a little bit legal and it needs just more aspect of the legality, but it is an act of animosity against Iran, an act of also breaking the international laws.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araqi says the US has crossed a very big red line and that there will be everlasting consequences. What does he mean by that?
Of course, as I mentioned to you, Trump himself, was just pretending that he is a man of peace. He's going to just make peace in the conflicts, for example, different, around the regions. But this just indicated that not only he is not, but he is a puppet of the Netanyahu, and as the mechanism of the Netanyahu is to bring, other players in the war that he initiated. This time, Trump, did a very bad, and does have, of course, consequences for U.S.
And what are the consequences?
One of them is Islamic countries all around the world would consider this act of animosity, and they won't be silent inside the region that U.S. does have personnel and bases, either in southern part of the Persian Gulf or other regions in the West Asia that they have bases. Muslim, just people, that they like Iran and they love Iran would not be silent. That would be all responsibility to the U.S. shoulder. The other one is, the ramification on the Persian Gulf, on the navigation and just transfer of energy in the region. Of course, that would be maybe affected. And the third part is just destruction of NPT, because Iran is an NPT member and adhere to that, using its inalienable right to apply for the peaceful nuclear use of this. So this one also put very bad consequences on NPT, and that would be also responsible of US.
It sounds to me like you are saying that US military are in danger and the Straits of Hormuz are going to be closed.
Iran kept, the right for itself to just do whatever necessary to that also act of United States. But even Iran, irrespective of how Iran's government does this in this way, Muslim, just nation of it would not be, just impartial and also would not be silent. Therefore, would be consequences.
Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong says Australia supports the US military strikes. What consequences will there be for Australia?
Madam Penny Wong, I did not, just heard in such outright and frankly to support military, but this phrase, but we have called upon our just Australian colleagues in the IFAD and also called the friendly nation of Australia and the government of Australia that they are peace-loving nation to take side with the right side of history and just support justice and legality. And this would not be in any way that the history would also judge, how countries take position in that. Therefore, we are friendly with Australia. We do not have any sort of animosity with them, and just we call upon them and like them to be with justice.
You say that you're a friend of Australia,
Yeah.
But she has backed the US response. Is that, in your view, the act of a friend?
They have to correct it because maybe different countries and different players see their national interest from their own viewpoint. But we have to just remind them, what is the real situation on the ground and just remove the misunderstanding, because Iran's nuclear program has been a legal and has been a peaceful nuclear program.
You say that, but the key charge against Tehran is that you were enriching uranium to weapons grade or near weapons grade quality. Is that true?
Of course not, because
if it's not true, is the International Atomic Energy Agency telling untruths?
I'm just explaining to that, that based on NPT, there is no limitation and ceiling on the percentage of enrichment. Whatever the usage of the nuclear energy and enrichment for peaceful purposes would be needed, the NPT member countries could do that. Like, for example, for isotopes that using in the medical, or also research reactor that uses higher grade, of the enrichment, as we did have one in Tehran based by the United States, in 1960s. It was using 95% enriched uranium. That was peaceful. Therefore, nobody can accuse any NPT member that their installation is under the safeguard of IAEA just with regard to the enrichment of uranium would be a threat, or just unpeaceful.
The IAEA said that you were in breach of the NPT and that you had taken it to 60% enrichment, which is well above 20 that is needed for civilian power.
Director General of IAEA, Rafael Grossi, is responsible in this bloodshed. We are following up. His just lack of wisdom in that regard legally through the United Nations, because the just misunderstanding over a few cases, a few dossiers, a few places was under the negotiation and cooperation between Iran and IAEA, and IAEA inspectors has maximum access to Iran. Iran was unique in terms of accepting inspection. Therefore, Mr. Grossi had a very bad failure in that regard. Then, yesterday and the day or before yesterday, he admitted we did not find any evidence that Iran has gone for a weaponization of the enrichment. At that time, he was mentioning that because of this, we cannot, just verify fully, but they very just bad and taking advantage of that, report, and we find Mr. Grossi responsible for that.
Do you believe the US wants regime change?
Well, we do not, just care, how they maybe just find, their way this way or other, because we found US is not genuine and is not honest in the diplomacy. But when it comes to our country, the people are consolidated and united inside Iran to protect their countries and they protect their governments. And not only such a very bad behavior of US could take place, but just the vice versa. Iranian people from every level, from every groups of the people, artists, the scientists, students, ordinary citizens, they are just united after this animosity of United States. Therefore, US would not be successful in this animosity as well.
Is it possible there is retaliation against other countries that back America in what it did in Iran?
Iran categorically announced that, the basis that is used, by United States to attack Iran, in whatever places that it would be also a just maybe legitimate, target, But since these attacks, that happened, they said that they were initiated from inside United States, this one. For the time being, it's not considered maybe from other countries involved yet, but Iran keeps its right, to retaliate based on its self-defense right.
Does it have a right to retaliate against other countries that back America?
The ones that they just got, the basis in access for the United States to just use directly to attack Iran, they are also maybe exposed.
Well, Australia has got bases that are military bases in jointly operated with the United States. Does that put Australia at risk?
We didn't have any just a statement or something like that they are giving it directly for these operations that happened.
And what if they have?
When the diplomatically speaking, when it happens, then we will decide. We cannot just go ahead and predict, for something that it is not, tightly, just evidence for us.
Finally, can Iran, under the current regime, ever recognise? Can Iran, under the current regime, ever recognise Israel's right to exist?
We mentioned, time and again that the territory that it is called now under this regime, but it is the occupied Palestine, should come to a referendum, and comprehensive referendum that include all the Palestinian population, either Jews, Muslims or Christians, to go for one person, one vote. Whatever the outcome of that referendum comes out, it would be the shape of the government we recognizing there. But for this regime is based on the occupation and just depriving Palestinians from their self-governance right. They just made them to just go out of their places, their just homes. Injustice, with injustice. So
It sounds to me like you don't recognise
no,
Israel's right to exist.
Until that referendum takes place, no. We don't recognize until that referendum comes.
But that referendum is only among Muslims.
No, among the Palestinians comprehensively, including Jews, Muslims, and Christians, that they are considered Palestinians. Whatever they have the religion or race, under the supervision of United Nations could take place, then Iran would just recognize the outset and the output of it.
All right. Ambassador, thanks very much for
You
your
are
time.
very welcome to come.
Thank you.